Hey guys, how are you? My name is John Tedora, and for those of you that don't know me, they call me the Sports Trader. Now they do that because I'm the head trader at a website called sportstradingsystems.com where we trade sports like you trade stocks. Now, we have a huge database of people that actually get our weekly emails, or it's called our newsletter. And because of everything that's going on with the current coronavirus, I decided this week that instead of actually sending out people information, I thought I would let people actually ask me questions. So what I did was I gave people the opportunity to send in questions, and I told them I would answer anything that they wanted to. So today I'm going to do that. Let's start with our first question here, which is, this comes from Dan. And Dan says, will there be an NFL season, and what are the chances that they play with no crowd? Well, look, Dan, again, like we always do here at Sports Trading Systems, and what I always like to do is I do have an opinion, which I'm not afraid to share, but I also like to rely on data. Now, there's the big three in sports, but the reality of it is there's really only one big sport in America, and that's pro football. Everything else is secondary. Now, our research shows that the NFL made approximately, and this is a staggering number, but $18 billion in revenue last year. That's a B, by the way. Now, when I talk about the NFL, I talk about the NFL as a whole. The NFL is a company that has 32 teams underneath them. So you're looking at $18 billion in revenue last year, which is just a staggering amount of money. Now, Bloomberg estimates that it earned around $15 billion during 2018, and that's up from $14.2 billion in 2017 and $13.3 billion in 2016. So as you can see, every year it grows. So if you want to go on that same growth curve, you would say that this year in 2020, that the NFL is probably on pace to make about $20 billion. Now, Commissioner Roger Goodell has targeted $25 billion by the time they hit 2027. But if they stay on the same current growth pace, on that same curve, they're going to far surpass that by the time they hit 2027. I mean, it's 7 years away. And they're growing at about $1.5, $1.6 billion a year. Now, the NFL groups its revenue streams into two separate categories. There's national revenue and there's local revenue. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking to yourself, just answer the question. Are they going to have the NFL season or not? Well, again, it's all going to be built upon this. This is a business. The NFL is a business. So if it makes sense from a business standpoint, they're probably going to push to do it. Now, national revenue, again, there's national revenue and then there's local revenue. National revenue consists of TV deals, along with merchandising and licensing deals. Like you'll see like the Tom Brady shirts. Well, those Tom Brady shirts are sold for the NFL, and the NFL makes all the money on that, which they distribute amongst all the teams. Now, all these deals are negotiated at the national level by the NFL itself. The teams all have a vote in the final deals, but they have no direct connection to the actual negotiations. That's all done by Roger Goodell and his team. The national revenue is then divided evenly between all 32 teams. So if you happen to be a Tom Brady and Patriots fan and they've won 6 Super Bowls, during those years, they don't make any more money. They still get an even split of what the distribution is. Now, for an idea of what teams get, as of February 2019, each team received $255 million annually from the league's television contracts. That's $255 million last year for television contracts. Now, that's normally only about 50% of the actual revenue for a team. Now, if you're looking at something like, now remember, this is an average. If you look at somebody like the Cowboys, the Cowboys last year made $860 million. So they're a little bit on the high end because they're a very popular team. And if you're going to get to some lower teams, I'm going to guess those numbers are a little lower. Everything I'm telling you is really just an average along the way. NFL merchandise makes up about 2% of the total league revenue. And league sponsorships are about $1 billion plus a year. And if you look at what kind of sponsorships you're thinking about, like Ford Truck, I think last year was one of the sponsors. There's usually a beer company that's the national beer. Like Coors Light is the beer of the NFL football. So all those companies pay to be a part of that. Of course, you know that. But all that money equals to be about $1 billion throughout the year. Now let's talk about local revenue, because this is the part that's really going to come into play here when somebody says, are they going to play without a crowd? Well, I mean, first of all, it would be, in my opinion, it would be an incredibly boring game without a crowd. But I think what it really comes down to is it fiscally responsible for the owners to say, there's still a health crisis. They figured out a way to do a 15-minute coronavirus test, and we can test every player before they get on the field, and we can still play the games in front of nobody. So is it worth it from a money standpoint? Well, you're looking at 50% of the money comes from the television contracts. That's a lot of money. Now, local revenue, which consists of ticket sales, concessions, and corporate sponsors, like your home stadium is named, okay, I'm from Pittsburgh. It's not the Pittsburgh Stadium. It's called Heinz Field. Now, that sounds snappy, like, oh, that's cool. They named it after Heinz Ketchup because Heinz Ketchup is made in Pittsburgh. But that's not what happened. Heinz paid a lot of money for that field to be called Heinz Field. So that's part of the corporate sponsorships. Now, those earn the teams approximately 40 to 45% of each team's revenue, which they would be giving up. So if you don't have a season, you don't have that revenue, 40 to 45% of your revenue. Now, you have to remember that the costs of running any business are high. And the NFL is a business. It's no different. The salary cap for each team is almost $200 million. Now, some teams run a lower cap number, and some teams run right up against the cap, which I think this year is like $198 million. So some teams will be right up against the cap at like $195 million. And some teams will be, at $110 million with a ton of salary cap space. Now, I'll tell you, $200 million is what it costs to keep up with stadium upkeep, marketing, and team administrative costs. It's a lot of money to actually keep the actual team running. So the reality of it is, look, this is going to come down to a health issue. So if it's at a point where they can't do public gatherings, that there is no way that I think that these NFL teams put a team on the field and take a huge loss like that. Now, they can downsize. They can go through and say, well, we don't need this much administrative because we're not running the stadium. We obviously don't have to pay for anybody that actually runs the stadium. We don't have to pay for marketing to sell tickets, but they're going to lose a tremendous amount of revenue. You're talking about 40% of their revenue on the low end just from local sales tickets. So I'm going to say this. The question's a good one, and it's one that I'm worried about too. Kirk Herbstreit recently came out this week, actually a couple days ago, and said there would be no NFL season, there would be no college football season. And the reality of it is, and this is really going to make me sad as well as a lot of other people. If they can't fix this current health crisis, there will be no seasons. There will be no sports in 2020. Now, if I'm trying to be optimistic, which I am usually an optimistic person, I'm going to say that we're far enough away from football season. Basketball's in jeopardy right now. Basketball is definitely in jeopardy. Baseball is hanging by a thread to get anything that resembles a full season in. But there is a very decent chance that we can make football season, and football season would actually go off without a hitch. And I'm talking about NFL, and I'm talking about NCAA football. I believe the opportunity is there. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. Just one. Is it bad luck for two? I can't remember. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, and I'm going to hope like heck that we actually get to have the NFL season because I'm super excited for it. I'm super excited for what's going to happen. I live for opening day. And, keep those questions coming out there. For those of you that are members of my mailing list, of the guys who get my newsletter all the time, fire out those questions. If you guys would like to join the mailing list, you can do that. You can go over to our website, which is sportstradingsystems.com. There's a little box. You can put your email in there. I don't send out any spam or anything like that. I send out a lot of educational stuff, trying to teach you guys all about sports trading. And if you're wondering what sports trading is, you can check out the website to learn a lot more information. And I will see you in the next video.